Hello everyone, this is Charlotte and it's a podcast called Chatting Cars. It's where I talk about random topics written on a post-it. I've got a stack of post-its at the moment whilst I drive places and discuss them at length, and you can see just how mental my brain actually is. Yes, it's not all there some days, and yet some days it is. Welcome to being past 30, heading into 40. Alright, so there's a disclaimer at the start of this podcast because I do talk about sensitive topics. I don't stick to one topic, so you might find yourself talking about kittens and then it talks to some kind of genocide. I have a weird brain that works in networks, so most people do, I think. I would like to believe. Linear people tend to be the thicker ones. So, I also swear considerably. I'm not backing down on that. I know some people have a distaste for it. I embrace my colourful language and I enjoy the ride, so I'm just going to keep swearing. I will try to keep it somewhat adult. But if I get impassioned, I'm going to swear and I'm going to have fun doing it. So, the topic for this wonderful drive home, where I dodge people and try not to slam into them because, inner voices. No, I'm joking. What was I going to do? I was going to do self-talk. Self-talk. Now, this podcast in itself for me is a vehicle for self-talk. It's me trying to figure out what's going on in my life. And I, being autistic, need to hear it out loud to understand it most days. So I do ramble, obviously. As you get older, you'll find that you talk to yourself a lot more. It's probably just trying to make sense of the world still, without that person that you deem, equal to the task of listening. You'll find that you do more things independently, and that includes trying to sort shit out in your head. And from that comes talking to yourself, essentially. It is apparently a sign of madness. I don't believe that. I believe it's a sign of trying to understand the inner monologue by hearing it from a different angle. So, even if the angle is slightly short, lower down, being that it's your mouth. I know, I'm weird. Anyway, so, it's nothing wrong with self-talk. A lot of people are worried about other people overhearing what they say, and all it is shower thoughts. So I don't see a real reason to be, apprehensive about talking to yourself. Some of the content could be a bit questionable, particularly if you're in a mood. Like I do tend to get in a mood, so some of my comments when I, mutter under my breath are not exactly kosher. Coming from a trauma background, I also have a few things going on there where it's not exactly kosher. Some of the things I want to, I tend to want to do. That's a lot of stored anger, I know that much. I know I'll never act on them because it would be stupid and against logic and I'd get in a shitload of trouble. But the idea of just, hearing them out loud, like if I'm angry, if I hear it out loud, then I can sort of, reason that it's probably a stupid thing to do and not to go any further. It's not like I'm actually a homicidal maniac. But with the stored up rage, there's still a little fiery spittering of just fuck off sort of thing. Everyone's got a temper, particularly when we're either hormonal or tired or hungry or just cold or, we're just dealing with fucking idiots all day and you're like, just fuck off or I'll cut your legs off. It's like, not that you're actually going to cut their legs off, right? That's pretty basic. Anyway, so who has the time to cut someone's legs off? That's when you hear it. That's when you say it out loud and you go, well, that's just silly. No one's got the time for that. And you'd get in trouble. So voicing your anger it can be therapeutic. I'll admit that much because you're getting it out of your system. You just got to be careful with where you put that content. Swearing for me is incredibly therapeutic as well because it means I can get the energy that I've stored up in the form of a particular sound and just expel it from my vessel, if that makes sense. I can just get it out. Store that stuff up, it will just make you implode. You can't internalize that kind of stuff. It's not good for you. Even swearing can be just a release. I'm not the kind of person who just sits there and screams abuse at things. So most of my anger comes out in just little spitfirey sort of comments and shit like that. I'm angry, I'm just, fed up. I have mostly a control on my temper, because I know that if I don't have a control on my temper, it will be the worst. It will not be good for me in the workplace or with any kind of interactions I've got with people. My temper can be quite ugly, and that's just a result of, like Aspies or trauma, or like raised up in a berserker home environment for over half my life now. So there's a lot of excuses you could make, but it's our duty as adult to not pass on that trauma. So you want to make sure that you are regulating that as best you can. It's a bit trickier when you're having trouble recognizing your triggers, but if you've done it enough times, yes, you can. You can identify what sets you off, find your way around it, and mediate the circumstances to make sure that you don't have a fucking meltdown. I've had to do it enough times. Most of the times I go into sort of analysis of the situation and components just to try and understand if I'm reacting in the right way. And that's part of my autism, I know that much, because I've had this full-blown discussion with an actual psych about this. Like, but why do I keep analysing things and overthinking it because you're autistic? And you're trying to blend in, and it's like, oh, I just thought I was weird. Most people don't do this. No, most people do this. There's a lot of undiagnosed ASDs people out there. So, if you're ever concerned, go on, get yourself tested. Not that it's not a spectrum. I mean, autism these days hopefully is less of a dirty word than it was, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. If anyone was vaguely different, they generally, 100 years ago, just stuck them in a funny farm. These days, we're trying to find ways to incorporate them into the society and give them a life, that compensates for these naturally occurring disorders, things like that. So there's not such a stigma as it had 100 years ago, but it's still not completely all the way there. So it's interesting to watch the differences in ways people cope and deal with, different things. As far as I'm aware of, things like autism is genetic. It comes with comorbidities. For example, you might find one series of DNA that has not only autism but also ADHD, ADD, OCD, generalized depression, generalized anxiety. These are all strands that can, co-occur with one particular diagnosis. There's no one person that just has ADHD or just has autism. So you'll find there's lots of different aspects to the person. I do question whether mine was, when they say like nature versus nurture, it wasn't nature versus nurture, it was nature and nurture. I already had a predisposition to think and act and behave and feel a particular way because of my ASD, mixed with the environment of intense aggression and violence and like circumstances and trauma and all this kind of thing that all sort of act on the initial disorder. Things became amplified. So my anger issues, some people might have anger issues, I have rage issues. It's like, it's amplified. It's not nice. I don't like doing it, and sometimes I do feel absolutely filthy for letting my rage out. You sit there and think, why the fuck did I do that? What kind of a person am I? Or thinking particular ways. And you hate yourself for it to a certain degree, but you've got to recognize you are human. These are normal. I had no say in what kind of genetics I would have or what experiences I had. I mean, bearing in mind I was a kid. I didn't leave that sphere of aggression and berserkerdom until I was 19. I was stuck in it, and for me it was the norm. This is the way we react, this is what we do, and not that I ever got a chance to react against my parents because they would fuck you up. But, it's still that storing that rage. It's being that vessel and taking on other people's anger and aggression and just storing it and internalizing it. And it's got to find an outlet somewhere. So if anyone's had a background in that kind of berserker, the upbringing, it's best for them to find a physical way to get it out, I think, because, you know, you would make the best fighters, cage fighters. You'd make the best stuntmen. You'd make or stunt people, I should say. It's not just a male thing. Things that are active. You just, you know, agitate that anger out of the body. The more you store it, the more it poisons the system, the more it, you know, it just makes it worse. It compounds it. You need to find an active way out of it. You can sit there and theorize and psychologically analyze, fucking stutter, yourself until the cows come home. That's all theory, that's book learning. Until you actually get there and physically get it out of your system, it's not gonna do you any good. It's looking at the problem, putting a label on it and not doing anything about it. It's looking at a cut, saying that's infected, and then moving on. You know, it's like, we know what it is now. What are you going to do about it? Fucking nothing. So you're going to have to physically do something to clean that cut, to heal it, to sew it up, stitch it, whatever you need to do. It needs to be done. Cauterize it. And in effect, anything physical helps you with that rage. Sorry, I've lost my tangent. What was the topic we were talking about again? I'm going to have to look at it again. It's not duty. I've got a few ones there. What was I talking about? See, there's another part of the PTS I don't like. It's my memories counts for shit. I've blacked out a fuckload of shit and my memory's just gone to shit. I hate that. My memory's so bad. Yeah, but again, another reaction to trauma. You tend to black things out, things. Yeah. But it also feeds on other things as well. That's not good. Self-regulation. Please help me. What was I talking about? On the drive home, self-talk. Yes. Oh my God, I can't believe that, to remind myself. So, in order to regulate my emotions, because I am not exactly, seemingly, as clued in. I am, though. I've never had a problem with my emotions, except that I don't understand assigning particular physical feelings to the labels which people call things. That's the only thing I can get around. Like guilt. I know I felt it. I must have felt it. But when I think about it in an abstract way, I can't identify or sort of feel ahead. If that, you know how you can think ahead? I can't feel ahead what it would feel like to hear that word and feel that way. Guilt. Yeah, it's a bad feeling. I know that much, which is what we're trying to avoid. So we be nice to people. See, this is the logic. It's like if we're nice to people, it'll be okay. No one feels bad about hurting someone. See, that's the thing. It's like I can summarize most in-depth, defined feelings that most people will feel and can say, oh, I know what that feels like, under the big umbrella term of saying feeling bad. So it's like, I feel bad. Yes, but is it? Are you depressed? Are you are you sad? Where is this? Where is this going? It's like, I feel bad. It's like when they diagnosed me with depression when I separated from my ex-husband, it's like, you've got depression. It's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, the crying, you can't sleep, the severe anxiety of having to leave the house and things like that, that's part of your depression. You've got depression. It's like, the fuck I do? I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm sad. Does that count? It's very odd. And of course they gave me the tablets, which are not antidepressants. They gave me Diazepam. What's the one that makes you sleep? I had trouble sleeping, which she said, this is just compounding the situation, we're going to give you meds. My supervisor who was doing my doctorate at the time said, you just take the antidepressants and get through, and that'll be fine, it'll be fine in the end. And I railed against it. I'm saying, I don't want to take antidepressants because my sister's on antidepressants. Both my parents are on antidepressants. I don't want to do this. If I can, I want to be doing it not chemically based. I want to find some kind of behavioral way of doing this so that I can regulate myself. I don't want to fuck up my internal system. It's fucked up enough with the ASD and all kinds of things. Let's try and find a way around this. And that's what made me sort of sign up to the gym, restart doing yoga, to be honest. I was doing yoga since I was 17. I gave it up when I got married. Which is why I love that I picked it up again like duck to water. It's fucking yes. I love that. It is just riding a bicycle. Pilates I built on top of that, and I also I do a bit of calisthenics while I'm doing my stretching, just because I want to work on my balance and core. But yoga I was doing since I was 16, 17. I thought I would forget, or like you've got that muscle memory. I thought I would forget that over the years because I was doing it at 17 and I stopped doing it. I must have been like 20. I stopped doing it, and then I picked it up again at 33, 34. So I was very happy that I still had some level of flexibility there. And that just got better with time. So I'm like, okay, cool. All right, this is something I can work with. But as part of my therapy, self-assigned really, because I talk to myself non-stop anyway, it was suggested I keep a diary. I was like, I've kept a diary since I was 12, dude. I have diaries. All right, have you tried yoga? Yes, I've done yoga since I was 7. All these suggestions. Have you tried going for a walk? Have you tried getting out of the house? Have you tried making friends, social environments? All this kind of cognitive behavioral shit that I was already doing, or I was trying to, and it was more of a case of finding what you want to do rather than following what someone else wanted you to do. That was the hardest part, because then I had to actually self-assess, what do I actually want to do? It was no good trying to apply someone else's therapy to my particular problem. Everybody's different. So some people can just go for a run and clear their mind. I can't do cardio. First of all, my PTS kicks off and I seize up, and my breathing fucking stops, which happens mid lifting weights as well. If I go too hard, or if I don't manage to bring myself down again, I start seizing up breathing. Starts as a tremor in my right hand, moves over to my lungs, I stop breathing. If I'm holding a bar and I'm doing weighted squats, if I freeze, I can't get that fucking thing back up or down or anywhere. I just have to sort of, monkey roll out of there and hope to God it doesn't land on my chest or face. It's horrible. I haven't had to be in that position yet, but when I first started weight training, it was a real thing, because I was seizing up. I couldn't move this fucking bar, and I'm going, I can't breathe, I can't move this bar, and oh my God, I'm gonna die. So that was when I first started up weights, during my separation with my ex-husband. I don't think you'll ever understand how much of a fucking effect that I nearly said the C word, had on me. It wasn't just a case of being left by someone, it was a case of you fucked up my psyche and I nearly had a nervous fucking breakdown. So, because of you. Thanks, guy. But I found, what I wanted to do and who I was, which I'm really happy with. So, swings and roundabouts. But self-talk would help you conceptualize in your head, out in the open, it will help you understand the different facets of what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to say, because all it does is create like a verbal mind map, which is good for me, because in my head it's a bit cluttered and there's lots of overthinking. I can't get my shit straight a lot of the days. When I'm tired, I pick up my executive dysfunction starts kicking off. I'll start one job and 10 seconds in I'll be running off to do another job and then another job, and then I do finish, but it just kicks off and it's very scattered energy and I can't focus it all gets done. But again, it's that network thinking. I'm going, it's a knock-on effect. If I start this, I'll go over there and I have to do that, but this is there and I have to do that, and it's very scattered energy, and that's only if I'm tired or if I'm overloading myself. So if I can verbally sit down and talk with myself and say, what is my priorities? What do I need to do now? And eventually I'll write down on a post-it note, this is the order I want to do it. And sometimes I number it because, this is the shit that needs to get done first. It's part of a semi-ADHD, ADD, ADHD kind of thing. You can't quite concentrate, but the shit needs to get done. I didn't get diagnosed with ADD. I just got ASD. So I'm like, yeah, there's hints of it, I can tell you. Maybe not the whole enchilada, but it's definitely there. And only when I really get run down. If I am full energy and I'm slept well and my stutter has fucking gone because I'm not tired, my brain's functioning as it should, or as best it should, then that executive dysfunction doesn't happen. It doesn't get scattered. I just plow on. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing next. I don't really need the self-talk so much, but you can tell when I'm tired that I start muttering to myself a lot. And it's just me trying to get my thoughts straight and feelings and, you know, reactions and to circumstances right in myself. Some of the things I say can be quite alarming. I know that much. But again, that's where my temper comes out, and I'm just like, you know, it's not good. And I try and keep to myself. My tics come out as well. I've got echolalia. That's fun to say, isn't it? It's where I've been told you've got a voice in your, not a voice in your head, you've got a sound in your head. You've heard a sentence, a word, or something like that. And to understand it, you're trying to feel it with the way you say it. And so you'll repeat it to yourself. So you're understanding the meaning through hearing the sound of it, and you're listening for the syllables and all the extra bits and pieces to it to try and understand the depth and richness of it, if that makes sense. You're trying to fully understand what the fuck this means. So I'll hear the end of a sentence, or I'll hear someone's name, and then you'll just hear me off in the distance for the next 10 minutes repeating this name in different ways. I was like, it's like, and sometimes I just say, I don't even know I'm fucking say it, but I'll just say it like 50 times. It's silly. I know it's silly, but I'm trying to, like, especially if it's like a weird name, or it's got some kind of weird twang to it, I will actively try to say it more. Yeah, just to understand what's going on. It's odd. I know it's odd. And, you know, if you saw me at a bus stop and I was trying to say this one name, and I said it like 50 times, you'd probably think, oh, it's a crackhead. She's talking to herself again. And I'm like, I promise I'm not insane. I might not be insane. I mean, what are the standards we're using? The DSM-5 now? Am I insane? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think I'm all right. But you got all these little quirks, things that, you know, my mum brushed under the rug because she didn't want to admit that I had some fucked up issues. It's not really fucked up. Autism's great. Hyperfixation, you stay till the job's done. You're collecting everything, you're labeling everything, organizing everything. It's wonderful. It's actually a really useful disorder, funny enough. The only problem I ever had was the rigidity of situations where people aren't following the rules. That's the only problem I've ever had. And that just comes across as them not having good manners. I was taught what manners were, and I was taught what manners were violently. So when I see people being rude, it's an instant sort of knee-jerk reaction to get angry at them, because it's almost like I'm anticipating the punch. You know, it's like, if you're rude, you get smacked, right? So my knee-jerk reaction is, this person's been rude, I want to hit them. It's like, this is what we're taught. And it's a case of, it's hard to condition out of your system because it was heavily conditioned in. And I've got the ASD, so I'm following rules, and the rules said beat the shit out of this person. So you can understand what demons I'm dealing with on a personal basis. Like, someone disrespected me, what do? We annihilate them. What do? We beat the shit out of them. You can't just go around beating the shit out of people. Are you sure? Because they said at the start, this was the rules. If they, you're fighting with yourself, and you're developing your knowledge banks, and you're trying to deal with some kind of internal conflict theory, and it's a mind fuck from day one, because everybody's different, everyone's got their own perspective on things, and you're trying to negotiate this, being told that this is the way things are and it has to be, because if it isn't, then you're going to get hit. Or in military terms, if we don't get this right, the terrorists will win. I've seen so many memes about that, and I sit and think, fuck me, that's my mum all over again. Anyway, so it's a hard fight. You're trying to negotiate things, and I'm talking to myself verbally, and this, just sitting in the car talking to myself, talking to my inner person, but also, I know there's a hint that someone might be listening to understand. It's a great outlet. I don't want you to feel weird for doing it, because you have to sometimes. You have to. I sing to myself as well. I sing quite a lot, actually, funny enough. I never noticed until I started recording myself and, looking at my weird habits and quirks. I I sing a lot. But yeah, not any good. But you know, you give it a go, didn't you? Singing in your car, definitely, for sure, because no one's looking. I can't bring myself to sing in front of people. I used to do it when I was in my teens. I used to be all right with singing when I was in my teens because I used to enter talent shows and things like that. I don't know how the fuck I did it, to be honest, because looking back, it's full cringe right now. I can't imagine standing up in front of someone and singing. So I don't know if that's a fear or if that's just a people kind of thing. I don't know. It's like, people. Yeah, it could be anything. I'd give it a fucking go though, right? You got to try it. It's more as you get older, the less you give a fuck, so you want to try things. It took me forever to get into skinny jeans. It's forever. And then after that, forever to get into leggings because I'm just like, cringe. It's like, I don't like this. I don't like people. I don't like people are going to look at me, and I don't want people looking at me. But now I wear leggings and everything to the gym, and I just don't even think about it. I do think about the guys that suddenly pop up behind you while you're ass out squatting, and that kind of shits me off. But you know, I've developed a death stare that I make direct eye contact with them whilst I'm weighted up and squatting deep, and it's like, assert your dominance, fuck them up. And they tend to shuffle themselves on quite quickly if you make direct eye contact while you're squatting. Makes them uncomfortable. I don't know what the problem is there. You made me uncomfortable. I'm gonna make you uncomfortable, right? This is what we do now, apparently. But I do tend to mutter around the gym. Sometimes you say shit and you're like, why the fuck did I say that? Now they know I'm crazy. Half the time I'm stimming. I just say shit. I'm off with the fairies, especially on the treadmills. If I'm alone in the gym, oh my God, do I go off. I'll be sitting there talking to myself and dancing around and bopping along. I've got my music on. I'm totally stoked. As soon as someone else turns up, I'm like, yeah, you bastard. Why did you come? Because you've got someone in your spot now and you can't just be yourself. It's horrible because you gotta knuckle down and put up your armor and shit like that. Honestly, anyone who's watching the cameras in my gym is probably laughing their ass off at how stupid I am. And I don't care because no one's there and I can just act like a dickhole. It's fun. Bopping along with me pigtails. Being a complete spaz, it's fun. I like it. But as soon as someone else turns up, and they always got that persona where they're the big tough guy, I've come to lift weights, and you sit there and go, whoa, whatever, dickhead, just stay over there. You do tend to shut down and quiet yourself down because you don't want to, half the time I don't want to worry people because they're like, there's a fucking crazy chick over there. Some of the times you worry that you're embarrassing. And that includes when I start talking to myself in public. I full stim on the treadmill though, I don't give a fuck. I'll talk to myself, I let out my clicks, my glitches, my bipping. Boop. I'll flap my hands when I'm happy. I get excited about weird shit as well. Like the other day I was wondering about pancakes for about 30 minutes. I'm going, ooh, pancakes, and my arms started flapping. I'm going, I like this. What things like guys think are cute, you're like, this is genuine disorder. Why are you finding this cute? I don't understand. Oh, it's just cute. You're doing the hand flapping thing again. Yeah. That's attractive. Getting excited about cupcakes and shit. Food. I'm very food motivated. It's really worrying. But promising considering I'm an ex-anorexic, so I don't mind that. Food motivated. But you got to get me in the right time period, right? It's got to be on a cheat day. To get your way, it has to be on a cheat day. And it has to be vegetarian. And if I'm doing my sugar ban, you can't bribe me with sugar. Because I'm like, nah, I said no. So I'm a bit weird about food still, which apparently is an ASD trait. Food hang-ups. Like there's some foods I can't eat and textures I can't eat because it just drives me fucking nuts. Hate capsicum. Fucking hate it. I fucking hate it. I cannot get past that. I'm sitting there, even as a grown adult, going, I should be alright with this. I fucking hate it. Like, with an anger. Why are you angry? Fucking capsicum. And I can smell it as well. It's like instant rage. Maybe I've done something in a past life where it's just like, got murdered by a capsicum or something. I don't know. And it was developed this severe intergenerational, interlife hatred of peppers. I don't know. Why do Americans call them peppers? I don't know. Anyway, peppers are chilies or cracked pepper. Anyway, different plant. As you see, I waffle on. But you know, at the same time, it's very therapeutic. You've got to be free to actually express yourself, and it's not always the best times when it's expressing it to someone else, because there's always some condition that you can't say to another person. Bearing in mind, I was a selected mute when I was younger, so I didn't say shit. I got my younger sister to speak for me the majority of the time. I just pushed her in front, and I let her do a thing, man. She's an extrovert. She's good at it. Let her do a thing. If I wanted anything, I would just sort of whisper in her ear, and she'd mediate. She was really good at it too. She handles that shit. She's good. She's still good at it. I hate how she can walk into a room, make friends with everyone. It gives me the shit. She's amazing. I hate her. You know, it's like, fuck her. But I push myself into social interactions because I know I'm going to fuck up at some point. So at some point, a squeak or a click or, I don't know, a fart is going to turn up, and I'm going to embarrass someone or myself, and I'm not going to understand what I did, which is half the time, which is like half the reason I got upset when, like, the yoga guy unfriended me. Because it's that shit that I get in trouble for, and I don't understand why I'm in trouble, because I've done something, and I still, to this day, don't know what I did. Maybe I scared him. Maybe I made him angry. To this day, I don't know. I just do not know. I've done something that makes someone unfriend something. I'm still trying to analyze that, and I don't think I'm ever going to get any closure on that, to be honest. I just don't understand it. Something happened. You know? It's like looking at the Big Bang. Once there was a Big Bang, and then suddenly, the world. Mini chefs. Ice cream cones. I think I'm quoting Bill Bailey here. I love that man. Anyway, go and see his stand-up if you ever get a chance. Bill Bailey. He's got so many different stand-ups he's done, and they're all on YouTube, I bet. Dylan Moran is another one. He's amazing. Anyway, but it came out of nowhere, and I'm like, I don't understand what happened. Have I done something wrong? And that was weird. And I sit there and I talk to myself about those kinds of topics because I'm still trying to understand the analytics of it. It's like, I must have done something, because there's no action without, there's no initiation. You know, there has to be a reason, god damn it. It's like, I don't get it. And that's what gets me, because I'm trying to figure out the reason so I don't fucking do it again, right? Because you're trying to fit in. And if you're trying to fit in, it's insane, because you never will. I can't do the get along to go along, or go along to get along thing anymore. I just get angry with it, because it's so frustrating, because you never get the rules right, and nobody follows the rules. They'll say they'll follow the rules, but then they don't follow the rules. And then, you know, these are the things, these are the verbal things I have, the conversations I have with myself in the shower as well. I will have full-blown arguments and conversations with myself in the shower to try and understand what the fuck happened, you know? Or, you know, you've always got that delayed comeback. You're like, well, I should have said this, you know? Everyone does that. I'm convinced everyone does that, because nobody wants to confront the person at the initial insult, because you'll be seen as the asshole. But realistically, we've all got a pretty sweet comeback, right? It's just taking time to formulate. And maybe, what are you doing, dickhead? You fucking prat. Sorry, I'm watching Bad Drivers merge badly without indicators. See, this is what I'm talking about. Rules. They're not following the rules, and it's pissing me off. And this is just minor shit. Imagine if somebody cheats on you or something. That's major to me. That's like life-ending major kind of catastrophizing. Although that's what my ex-boyfriend used to say, you're catastrophizing. But if you put things like love and loyalty and things on such a high-stakes platform, only to watch someone completely disrespect it, wouldn't you react that way? Clearly this arsehole doesn't understand how important things like love and loyalty actually are to me, because he doesn't value themselves. So that's one of the conversations I had. It's like, why would you react that way to the way I reacted to you doing what you did, you know, with the hair clip and the stick on rhinestones? And I could never really understand why you were underreacting. He would say I was catastrophizing and I was paranoid, and I'm like, no, because I actually value monogamy, love, and all that. And he clearly didn't, because he didn't see it as a problem, what he was doing, you know. I don't know. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not going back. Anyway, because I don't have to deal with that clusterfuck of what the fuck. I don't want to. I have no interest in it. Oh, look, a monarch butterfly. Oh, sorry. Oh, I think I ran it over. I feel bad. Anyway, but it's so pretty. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked again. I love those butterflies. They're my favorite. Anyway, they are. I used to like those big blue ones. Anyway, fuck, that's ADD again. Let's go. I'm sorry. I got someone probably in the background going, this bitch is crazy. I'm like, yeah, somewhat. But you know, you self-talk. And of course you will sound crazy to some who don't understand what's going on with the context of the conversation, I guess. I mean, you want to pick and choose your places to be doing it. You don't want to sit on the bus muttering it to yourself. Even I've looked at people sideways going, oh, the motherfucker's crazy. I mean, bearing in mind where I was raised, a lot of the conversations were drug-induced. So they were just muttering to themselves because they were high as fuck. Yeah, so you want to pick and choose. If you're going to be high as fuck, don't get on a bus. I don't think they're thinking about that at that stage, do you? It's a funny conversation. It's interesting and scary to watch a bit. But again, it's self-talk, and maybe they're trying to understand some kind of narrative in their head or a story in their head that they're trying to just work through. And of course, you know, with drugs and alcohol and things like that, your inhibitions are lessened. So they're going to talk more, aren't they? They've got no consequence or no sense of weirding other people out while they're having these full-blown conversations at 3 o'clock in the mornings, swinging from a phone booth. You're like, I can dig that, man. It's like, I admire your commitment to having these weird conversations because you do it a bit quieter. I'm trying to sleep, it's 2 o'clock. As reminiscence of the area I used to live in when I moved out of my old hometown. I moved into a town that was a tourist/pub town. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, the crackheads would come out and they'd screech down the phone to no one. And you're sitting there going, okay, I'm trying to understand this from another angle. It may be the drugs. It may be nature. It may be, you know, so you're trying to constantly analyze what's going on. I know a lot of overthinkers tend to talk to themselves as well. If you're a natural overthinker, I'm a natural overthinker. You just tend to try and talk to yourself to figure it out. As if hearing it makes more sense, right? Some people write it down, I journal, but I also talk to myself because I need to hear and see from different angles and different formats what is going on. So there's absolutely no problem with talking to yourself. You shouldn't feel ashamed for it. You shouldn't feel embarrassed for it. If you're going to be talking to yourself about questionable content, I would move to a space where you are safe to, where you feel comfortable to. But don't hold it in. Don't sit there and say, I'm not going to talk to myself, or, you know, like, it's embarrassing to do it. I say don't judge, but we're all going to judge. And I just did a podcast about judging. But, you know, take it with a grain of salt. You can judge people for talking to themselves, particularly if the content's a bit scary. But at the same time, bearing in mind, we all do it. We all talk to ourselves. We all judge. We're all human. So there's no real shame you should feel about that. What does shame feel like? Yeah, that's another one I want to figure out. There are all these deeper feeling things. I know love. I love that. I know what love feels like because it is so intense for me. And it's an in the blood thing, like it's the only fucking emotion that's there for the most part. I have like love and I have rage, and it's like they're the two most prominent feelings I get. I don't get depression. I get happy. I'm probably identifying some other undiagnosed disorder right now to someone who is a psych and listening. But I just don't... there's certain nuances to the more... You know, the complicated emotions. I don't have. I might have them, I'm just not recognizing them. Like when I had depression, supposedly, I was crying all the time. I don't know why I was crying. Grieving, I was grieving apparently, and I had depression. And my psych is sitting there going, it's absolutely understandable. You should be grieving these circumstances. This is your life gone. Not only are you grieving your circumstances now, you're grieving the situation you find yourself in. You're grieving the loss of a loved one. Essentially, when someone leaves you, and suddenly, and there's no closure, it's like they've died. And those were exactly the circumstances I was faced with. And me being ASD, I didn't have any kind of grasp of what the fuck was happening. So there's also a state of confusion. I don't know what's going on. Why is this happening? Why am I crying? Why can't I stop crying? Why am I grieving? Why am I grieving these very rational decisions I made? Because I knew I couldn't exist in those circumstances. And yeah, I cannot stop crying. I can't stop feeling right now. So it's a weird clusterfuck dealing with that shit. So if you've got any kind of person who's facing those kind of circumstances, I'm begging you to have some kind of sympathy for them. If you are a so-called normal person who doesn't have the predisposition to not be able to regulate their emotions like that, have some kind of compassion, because it is a complete fuck fight for the person in the circumstances. Not only are they not able to regulate their emotions, they aren't able to understand their emotions. So these emotions are happening, but we don't know why, and they're there and they won't go away. And you know, it's crazy. It's a constant state of upheaval and chaos. And eventually it goes away, it dies down, and you know it dies down because you've stopped crying. Or, you know, it's crazy. I mean, I've never been particularly vicious with my emotions. I've never been like a malignant berserker or anything like that. So even though I can't turn off my emotions sometimes, it's never been a case of I'm going to go serial killing. It's been a case of I've loved someone too much and I can't turn it off. You know, it's my big emotions. I have trouble with the small emotions, but my big emotions are definitely fucking there. I felt like I died when I left my ex-husband. I fucking died. I on the inside, I was deathly hollow feeling. It destabilized my physical side of things. I was dealing with low blood sugar, mental issues. I couldn't sleep. I was going into shock and shit like that. I thought I was having a heart attack. I was having panic attacks, all this kind of mental shit that I just could not figure out because I had no way of identifying it, let alone, you know, figuring out how to cope with it. And that's one of the perks of self-talk. Sorry, my stutter's kicking in again. The perks of self-talk, besides working on your stutter, yes, it does help your stutter, is that you learn to find ways of explaining the feelings, ways of understanding what's happening, and hopefully ways of healing it. Because if you just leave it unabated, it's gonna fuck you up. Self-talk also helped me with my stutter. I will say that, because I can walk into any classroom these days and just lead. I have no problem with that, and that's come from practiced self-talk. I know that much. It's part of autism as well to practice scenarios as well. We want to understand what's going on. So again, while you're having these arguments with yourself in the shower, trying to understand what you should have said and stuff like that, you're also practicing the way you could have reacted and what you should have reacted. And it is a form of masking. In esoteric terms, it's also a form of shape-shifting because you're learning to act within particular scenarios. But as part of the socializing process, yes, it's also a part of shape-shifting and masking and trying to fit in. Everybody does that. You can't argue that anyone is immune to that. Because we all put on a uniform, a social uniform in order to fit in and try to belong. Even if it's just to, you know, coexist amongst people that you need to work with so you can get a job or a wage. It's like we all put a uniform on. We put our personality uniform on. When you feel safest to unveil who you actually are is the most important part, I find. The uniform has a purpose, but you've got to be able to relax as well and be yourself. And the best time, to be honest, sitting in your car, if you've got one, no one around, moving, so they can't even look at you while you're, you know, blasting your opera at the top of your lungs. Terribly. Oh my God, I'm so terrible. Anyway, just to find, you know, release some of that energy, that pent-up energy of trapping yourself in an identity that you have to perform with, to get along with other people, to participate. There's a huge release from just letting that go, just sitting there being yourself. And that, I don't know if you listened to the podcast I did on the value of being alone and the value of silence. It's like you need to understand what your personality actually is. And that only comes with separating yourself from circumstances which dictate and shape who you are and what you want to do and things like that. And if you can get alone out in the middle of fucking nowhere safely without someone coming after your kidneys or something, and actually just be alone with your thoughts. I mean, it's eye-opening, and you can relax and you feel some of the tension go, the stress is gone, because you don't have anyone to impress, you don't have anyone to live for, you don't have anything but yourself and your inner demons, and you've got to look at yourself and you've got to say, okay, what are we going to do next? Or who am I and what do I want to do? What did I do and is it worth it? And is it detrimental to anything? Did I cause any negative effect? Can I evaluate myself a bit better? What can I do next? It's that getting to know yourself on a basis that doesn't involve someone else's fucking input. And everyone has a fucking opinion, I can tell you that. As soon as I got separated, someone turned around and said, well, you should get that apartment back because he's a bastard. I'm like, well, right now I want to figure out myself. People were shocked that I had left with a shirt on my back. And I'm like, I left with a shirt on my back because I didn't really... First of all, I didn't understand what was going on at the time. I thought I'd be back, but after a week, I'm like, I can't go back. I can't be with this person. I can't live with this person. There's nothing about this person I can tolerate. And that came from separating myself from the situation. I'm going, this person has caused such a cataclysmic event in my life that I can't even identify with them anymore as part of, my reality, my person, my identity. Even though he had completely customized who I was at the time, I was so, it had fallen so fucking hard that I had no way of relating to him anymore. I couldn't be near him. He had caused me that level of pain. And the ripple effect which came psychologically after that, with all the fucking meltdowns and the depression and the issues that came from his decision to fuck other people, essentially, and to abandon us as a couple in a relationship. It was mentally, it was crazy. The ripple effect was tremendous. It was eye-opening. You know who you are by the end of it, if it ever ends. But at the same time, it's like, I had no sense of self. The lesson I got out of this, even though my life fell apart, was that I knew who I was and what I would and wouldn't fucking stand for. So, when my ex-boyfriend came along and started telling me I wasn't allowed to believe in spiritualism, I told him to stick it up his ass. It's like, I will do what the fuck I want at this stage. You have no bars over me, you have no hold over me. And that idiot was quite surprised that I wasn't following suit, doing what he said. And his famous line, which sticks in my head, is like, I'm only saying this because I care so much about you. And I thought, you fucking narc. He's like, my ex-husband used to do the same fucking thing, now you're doing it. So that was like a key moment in me turning around and saying, fuck you, fuck this, fuck everything, I'm out. And eventually you may have to do that. And if this person is still if you're with someone and they're trying to pull that shit, then you have every right to pull the pin. Fuck whether you leave them destitute. I'm sorry, it sounds horrible. You'll probably do your best not to. Of course, because no one wants to be evil, no one wants to be an asshole. But if they're actively being horrible to you and you've got no choice because they keep constantly fucking attacking you, getting under your fucking skin and trying to fuck with you, and if you've already got a predisposition for PTS and trauma, then they're fucking with that and making it worse, then you have every right to tell them to fuck off and leave. And their actions would have been like, it's reactive, what do they call it? I've seen it before, it's reactive abuse. They've abused you, maybe overtly, covertly, to the extent where now you are reacting and being seen as the asshole. And then they sit on their ass smugly and laugh at you for reacting. My ex-boyfriend used to do that a lot. Anytime I lost my emotions, I lost control of my emotions, he'd sit back and he'd be like, oh, you're paranoid, oh, you're catastrophizing. And he'd laugh because I was getting angry at what he was doing. And I'm like, I was never this angry when I was with my ex-husband. Why is this asshole so able to rile me up so much? And I thought, is this helping my PTS, my trauma, all that, or is it making it worse? And it was making it worse. And I left because it was the right thing to do. Whether I was emotionally available all the time, this time I was. When I left my ex-husband, I was not. But it was that self-talk that got me through the self-analysis. It's like, what is this? What's my part in this? Am I okay with this? I'm checking in for alignment. Do I agree with this? What he's doing? I'm questioning my morals, because by this time I had allowed things like, he does drugs. Oh, okay, it's just weed. That's what he does. Oh, but it's other stuff now as well. Okay. Oh, he drinks. We're going out for drinks. Oh, this is new and different. Oh, but he drinks all the fucking time now. It's like, oh, okay. Okay. Oh, he's highly sexual and he likes to have sex with you. Oh, we must be very attractive. But at the end of it was like, he's abusively asexual and he doesn't give a fuck whether I feel good about this or not. He'll keep going and he'll completely cross boundaries like the word no. So my standards had slipped, and he was a smoker, which in itself was a deal breaker at one stage for me. It still is now. I pick my standards back up. I don't want to smoke it. They're fucking gross. But I'd been betraying myself by dropping my standards, and I'd allowed too much shit to slip. And eventually, because of this small edging towards making you okay with their shitty habits, you'll find that you might start picking up some of their shitty habits too. So when he was going out drinking, I was going out drinking. Of course, I got to keep up with him. So we're both getting hammered and throwing up and shit like that. I never did drugs though. I'm glad of that. But I was still getting things like contact highs because he would smoke near the fucking windows and shit like that. I think that's as close as I've ever got. Contact high. Not that I ever found it fucking appealing, to be honest. It's just, It's one of those things. It's not really interesting to me. It's not something I'd be driven towards. But in that month, no, actually, what was it? We broke up in January. I moved out in April. Was that January, February, March, April. 3 months of me isolating myself from him and his habits and his lifestyle choices. I stuck to the spare room. I got back into the things I was doing before I hooked up with him. I was painting, I was writing, I was working my businesses, I was working full time, I was just getting all about me. I went back to the gym properly, I was eating properly, I was doing all these kinds of things, and I was just getting back to who I was before I started dating him. Sans all the shit he brought, like the emotional trauma, so I isolated myself from him. He was stonewalling me at the time, so it was a lot easier to do it. I didn't have to interact with him. I'm like, fine, if this is what we're doing, I will use this time wisely and I will get on with my life. Stonewall away. Meanwhile, it was either him stonewalling me, sitting on the computer, he's playing his games, or he's down at the pub with the pisses and the whores. I have no nice words for these people. I'm sorry if people are offended by that, but I don't care. Given the interaction, the behaviors I observed, they are as such. And it doesn't have to be sex or gender specific. These people act like this. I'm going, if it walks, talks, and acts like one, it is one. It's like, I've seen this. I know this pattern. You are one. And you can apply labels liberally, seemingly. Yes, I'm a bitch. Anyway, I don't care. I'll call it what it is. I'm tired of sugarcoating shit. But I got this time to myself, and I'm sitting there going, this can either be a curse, because at the moment he wants me to writhe in agony about him not giving me attention. And I'm like, nah, I think I'm going to be all right. I think I'm going to be all right, because the love was gone by then. Part of me was hanging on through pity, to be honest, because I'm like, this guy cannot look after himself. I even offered to, because we got evicted, I was even offering to him live with me, because I knew I had a better credit score and I could get an apartment easier than he could, but he'd already found a place, so, you know, do I need intervention there? But I was like, all right, so I was trying to help him, like, because he's always come across as helpless, but looking back, it's a tactic, because he wants someone to do it for him. And I hate myself for that, because he knew what kind of a person I was. I would actually do it for him, because I'm a fucking schmuck. I'm that kind of a person. I hate it. And I'm a fixer as well, which is already an underlying issue, because I can't leave shit broken. I have to fix it. I fiddle with things. I'm always doing things with my hands. I have to fix it. I have to, you know, make something. I have to create something. It's always something stupid like that. And the same goes for my relationships. I don't like big... I hate stonewalling. I can't do it. It fucks me up, because it's like we're just avoiding the situation. Things aren't getting fixed. What are we doing here? It's wasting time. And he used to use it as a control mechanism to hold the relationship hostage, because we were going to talk about it if we talked about it when he fucking felt like it. And it was just get up my ass. And this time it was the final straw. And I'm like, you're going to stonewall me? Fine. I'm going to go with what you want to do. We are going to stonewall together. I'm going to work on myself. I don't give a fuck what you're doing. You can go get shit-faced and waste your money for all I care. What I'm going to do is rebuild myself for the next 3 months. And eventually I'm going to find a place, and I will, because I got the better credit score. I don't give a fuck. And when I'm out, I'm out. I'm done. Because I didn't love him at this stage. I wanted nothing to do with him. I wanted nothing to do with that lifestyle. I feel bad that I lost a few friends that I made, hopeful friends maybe, although there was no real... There was only really 2 people I could be bothered talking to after that. I was like, I don't want to know any of the rest of you because you're all horrible. But, you know, it was through self-talk that I regulated myself. I was like, am I going to be upset by this? No. Has he done me a favour? Yes, actually. And whoever had left the hair clip stuff down the back of the couch or the rhinestones around my house as some kind of a fuck you to me, apparently. I thought, you know what? You can have him. Because he's not worth having, is he? If he's going to keep doing this shit and treating me like this. And I started to reevaluate. And the stupidest thing he could have done is stone me at that stage because I walked and I didn't feel anything when I did. There was no revenge. There was no need to prove that I was right. I just went with it. It felt natural. I'm like, okay, so here we part. And divine intervention was getting that eviction notice. I'm like, okay, I'm angry that we're getting evicted on my birthday because that was a bit of a dick move, but at the same time, it was a present to me. It was my freedom. Before that, I kept convincing myself that, you know, he was helpless and he needed me, or he needed pastoral care, or, you know, he couldn't fend for himself. And, you know, he'll find another one to latch on and do the exact same thing because he doesn't want to handle his own shit. He doesn't want to. It's too much like effort. If he can get someone to do it for him, he will. And he'll schmooze his way in. He'll use nice words, you know, flattery and, I don't know, some fucking stupid way of doing things. But he'll find his way in and he'll get someone else to look after him. And that's what some people are designed to do. I'm not, because I find it intensely insulting when people offer to look after me. Instantly my brain turns around and says, "You're saying I can't do it?" Full Cockney, yeah? Oi, fucker, you saying I can't do it? But that's the way I was raised. Or maybe he was raised to do whatever he did. I don't know. I don't know his parents. I never got a chance to fucking meet them because he never wanted me to be in any way associated with anyone like his family or his proper friends or anything like that. It was always his fuck friends, to be honest. I don't know if he has any proper friends. These all seem to be guys that hang around together to compete for pussy. It doesn't seem to be a real friendship to me. And when they're not hanging around each other, they're, you know, stabbing each other in the back to 2 other fuckboy friends. So it's a weird arrangement. I don't think that's a friendship. And as far as as far as bro code goes, in my understanding of it, what I've learned from my brother and his friends, that's not reflective of any kind of bro code that I'm familiar with. I think that's just some kind of competitive situationship, maybe, where they compete for pussy and attention. And if you've got one with a job and looks half decent and is willing to flatter you and look after you and feed you and clothe you and you know, pay half your rent and bills and shit like that, then you're winning, especially when the other ones haven't got it. It's fucked up. So that silence I had with myself gave me a chance to check in with what I actually wanted, what I valued in a person. Did I want this person to come with me? What did I want my future to look like? Are we even compatible? Did I just fall for, you know, me putting him on a pedestal mixed with me, or with him flattering me, or me being at a low point in my life where I felt alone? That makes you susceptible to assholes who will use you for sex and all kinds of things just to say that you have someone. That's a horrible tragedy of being left alone. He found me... Christ, I separated from my ex-husband, I think, November of the 2nd year of separation. Because you have to do it for 2 years before you can finalise your divorce for some fucked up reason. It's 2 years or 1 year? 1 year. So he found me in the 2nd year. November of the 2nd year. And by that time I thought I had healed. I didn't realise that, you know, I would be susceptible to this kind of person. I thought I'd known him long enough. That maybe he wouldn't pull this shit on me. I mean, when we first met, we were in our early 20s. I thought he knew me, or knew of me at least, or he wouldn't try this shit on me, but he did. And it's the same shit he's been trying on girls for the last 20 years, and he pulled it on someone who is a 33-year-old or 34-year-old woman. And I didn't take it for fucking long, I can tell you. Because you don't have to at my age. You're like, I'm not young and dumb, full of cum. I'm going to fucking annihilate you if you try this shit. I'm not in my 20s. I have shit to lose and a life. So it's like, I'm not here to contract STDs for fun. I don't find it appealing to find the biggest, dumbest, most extroverted guy and fuck it. I don't find that appealing at all. And to be honest, I like the quiet ones. I like the quiet. Don't have to be particularly intelligent. Well, I say you don't have to be like highly educated. You just need to have a good heart and be a good man. You know, high morals, kind, and warm. I'm not looking for a genius. I know I've got weird attributes where I'm maybe overqualified for my job, but at the same time, I'm not looking for someone intensely intelligent that needs to, you know, because with that comes arrogance is what I've found. It's like you get a really smart one, they tend to be an asshole. And same as when you go to the gym, you get a really buff one, they tend to be an asshole. It's like, it doesn't make sense. Why can't you just acknowledge your limits? And yeah, it's weird. It's these are my shower thoughts, because I'm still in my head trying to understand what kind of a partner I want. And the thing about, you know, talking out loud is you can actually rationalize what is valuable to you. Like at the start, I did it again. At the start, before I started dating him, I was happy that he was intelligent because he's got a maths brain. But by the end of it, he was such an arrogant shit. I'm going, I hate this. I hate this because everything you fucking do is now a pissing competition to prove how fucking intelligent you are. And I'm going, you're not that intelligent. You've got one strand topic that you're good at, which is maths, and that's about it. Because the rest of that shit you picked off of Google. And I can even fucking identify the sources and shit you've read, probably. And he used to tout this shit. It's like, oh, I'm so smart. And I used to sit in the library at uni and just read book after book after book. And I'm like, yeah, are you memorizing this shit, or do you actually understand it conceptually? I don't know. I don't know. So I would be all right with a guy who's not university educated at this point. Just as long as he's not an arrogant asshole, right? People might feel insecure. It's like, oh, I haven't had much education, or I haven't got much money, or stuff like that. If you're a fucking good person, and I mean solid gold, that shit is more intensely valuable than, you know, what, like 5 degrees, some shit. I don't know. Just be a good fucking person. Show some humility. Know how to be compassionate. Things like this. Good people stuff. Good stock. Don't be an arrogant shitbag. It's incredibly unsexy, right? Nobody wants to touch an asshole like that. There are different types of assholes you want to touch, but not that kind. But you know, oh my god, this just got incredibly crass. So, self-talk. You see, these are my shower thoughts. And the conversations I have when I'm wandering around my house, you wouldn't believe. So, I'm gonna have to leave it there because otherwise I'll just ramble your ear off. My main point is that I don't want you to be ashamed of self-talking. There is nothing wrong with that. Absolutely have discussions with yourself. You need to mediate the circumstances you find yourself in. It will give you a chance to understand what's going on and defuse what's going on in your head. Pick and choose your locations wisely. I've got ASD, so I have trouble picking and choosing sometimes when I'm stimming. I just let it out and I'm like, fuck it, which makes you look really fucking crazy. But bearing in mind, it's all benign. It doesn't mean anything, really. It's just me trying to diffuse a few emotions in my brain that I can't figure out. So, yeah, it's benign. It's not anything malignant. And take it easy because we're all human. Everybody needs help. So I'm going to leave you there. And I know this is a really fucking long one. And I'm so sorry because I've just bored the shit off of you. Off you. I don't know. I'm going to have to look into that one a bit better. Have a great day, and I'll hopefully do another podcast on Thursday.